innovator, influencer, investor. Other words that start with I. These are the traits that define the most important man in our country's history. But who is this man, and how did he build such a monumental legacy? This is Defining Freedom. Billothy Earl Westerk was born February 1st, 1995 in Chattanooga, Tennessee. He lived a humble childhood in his parents' country estate. Billothy's parents instilled a strong work ethic into him from a young age, having him do work around the house like watering imported palm trees and attending private schooling. It was at this schooling that he excelled with a B+ average. His diligent work ethic and academic excellence would be needed soon, because as he entered early adulthood, his parents presented him with his first life challenge. In 2012, when Billothy was only 17 years old, his parents purchased the Tennessee Times, an aging physical newspaper company, and granted full ownership to Billothy. His parents presented the company to challenge the young Billothy's developing entrepreneurial prowess to see if he could turn the failing company into a profitable business venture. He wasted no time in revamping the company, firing large sections of the veteran workforce, including all of the writing staff. From then on, Billothy Westerk was the sole writer for the Tennessee Times. Billothy streamlined every part of production, down to the stories themselves. As the sole writer and chief editor of the Tennessee Times, Billothy had total control over what stories were printed, allowing him to sell directly to his target demographics. Billothy saw an opening with the elderly and apolitical. Headlines and stories were short, typed in large point font, and told locals exactly what to think. During the divisive and troubling period in North American politics, the Tennessee Times was a clear, understandable voice for the American people. He became a regional success, the Tennessee Times becoming the largest physical newspaper in the Tennessee area. In the years that followed, Billothy used the success of the Tennessee Times to branch into other business ventures under his father's firm, Westerk Holdings, which he would later inherit after his father's untimely passing in 2018. Billothy carried on all the same, expanding Westerk Holdings and amassing greater wealth and influence, which would be put to the test again from a different source. It was in 2020 when the richest man in the world, Elon Musk, announced his intentions to purchase the social media platform known as Twitter. Billothy Westerk saw an opportunity to break out from the American South and make a splash on the global stage. Could the young upstart from Tennessee really challenge the world's richest man? Billothy thought so. For months, Elon Musk and Billothy Westerk went back and forth on purchasing Twitter, one always trying to outbid the other. Eventually, Elon Musk announced a ludicrous $250 billion offer for Twitter, seemingly securing his victory in the bid war.
The problem here is that this is an insane amount of money, even for Elon Musk. And Twitter was worth nowhere near that. He'd basically be setting his own wealth on fire to try and outbid someone that he simply saw as some upstart country bumpkin. Almost immediately after announcing the offer, Musk turned to the Supreme Court to try to back out. Another interested buyer was already lined up and waiting, and nothing official had actually been, agreed upon yet. The Supreme Court ruled in favor of Musk under the condition that Musk could not make another offer, and then the next highest bid would be the one that stands. And that bid belonged to Billothy Westerk.
By late 2022, Billothy Westerk had done it. In a move of pure ambition and determination, Billothy Westerk had purchased Twitter for $83 billion. Billothy Westerk was now a global figure, but for many, the acquisition of Twitter was confusing. Billothy Westerk had taken out massive business loans to afford the purchase, ones he would have no hope of actually paying off. but Billothy Westerk was not concerned.
Westerk's entire fortune was now tied up in business loans. By all account, he should have entered a debt cycle and eventually just ended up bankrupt. But he didn't. It was as if, as early as 2022 or 2021, Billothy had seen that the tides were shifting, and that nobody was going to be coming to collect those debts. It was like he knew what was going to happen.
With so much anger and division in America right now, do you believe that Americans can still come together and find common grounded values?
Well, I suppose I can't really say for certain. By 2023, the Tenntucky movement, an ideological and logistical union of the states of Tennessee and Kentucky, was rapidly gaining traction and support. Their success at the 2022 midterms propelled what many saw as a niche political movement and interstate support network to national headlines, ousting several incumbents and placing independents in seats at the federal level. While not a politician at the time, Billothy saw an opportunity in collaborating with the Tenntucky movement and bumping shoulders with the rising Tenntucky figureheads. The Tennessee Times ran several pro-Tenntucky stories, both in physical newspapers and on Twitter, pushing the Tenntucky movement to more eyes and affording the Tennessee Times and Billothy himself good favor within the movement and its supporters, something that would be necessary for Billothy's long-term success very soon. Stay tuned, America. Things are just starting to get interesting. On the morning of November 6, 2024, Americans all around the country awoke to a horrifying discovery. Breaking election news this morning, as neither candidates Joe Biden nor President Trump are projected to receive the 270 electoral votes required to win the presidency.
Congress is still in a deadlock today as independent representatives from Tennessee and Kentucky refuse to change their votes from presidential candidate Linus Tips. Neither the House nor the Senate have been able to reach a majority vote for the presidency.
The Supreme Court today has ruled that Donald Trump may remain as president until Congress can decide on a candidate.
Protests on the recent Supreme Court ruling have turned increasingly violent as federal police clash with thousands of protesters.
I mean, with the way things are going now, it looks like he's going to get his third term anyway.
President Trump is granting the Texas National Guard the authority to get the western states under control.
Two presidents are sworn in today as both Joe Biden and Donald Trump are named President of the United States amid controversial election result.
This could be the end of America.
While chaos raged across America, Billothy Westerk was not hiding away. As the former United States fought amongst itself, Billothy was hard at work with the Tennessee Times. After the power grid began to fail and millions were left without lights or access to the outside world, Billothy remained committed to providing news to the new Tenntucky region of the United States. The Tennessee Times became the primary news source for millions of Americans in the darkest time in American history. By 2026, North America was almost unrecognizable. War had ravaged the United States and parts of southern Canada. Billothy Westerk accepted this new world and stepped into it ready and determined to build a life and legacy in the now independent state of Tenntucky. He renamed Twitter to Twit-Tucker in an act of goodwill and a pledge of loyalty to the new nation. However, this was a different America from the one Billothy had left, and that brought many new challenges. A new physical paper company had entered the market to challenge the Tennessee Times' regional dominance. The Tenntucky Suck was quickly becoming the go-to news for people in the Nashville area, and it was operated by the new leader of the nation.
Now, of course, Billothy couldn't compete with Joseph Salazar, As important and powerful as Billothy Westerk was, Joseph Salazar was the architect of Tenntucky as we know it. But Billothy had a good sense for things like this. He had the money, he had the time. All he had to do was wait for the right moment.
The Tenntucky Suck took the nation by storm, and the Tennessee Times became a secondary news source in Tenntucky. But the victory for Billothy's new rival was short-lived. By 2030, Joseph Salazar had completely disappeared following the Great Fire started in Lebanon that spread all the way to Nashville, burning the nation's capital to the ground. The Tenntucky Suck faded into obscurity as its owner and primary writer vanished. The Tennessee Times was once again unchallenged, but the challenges were far from over for Billothy. The Great Fire had severely disrupted the Tennessee Times' distribution. This was further exacerbated by the new Salazar of Tenntucky, Matt Obama-ass, declaring war on New Dixie, further tying up Tenntucky infrastructure for the military. In a daring and brilliant business move, Billothy laid off or transferred the entire staff to other Westerk Holdings ventures, putting Tennessee Times on ice for the time being. After this, Billothy took a step back from running his business empire, returning to his private country estate in Chattanooga to begin truly enjoying life while he waited for his moment to relaunch the Tennessee Times. Months turned to years, and years to decades. Billothy spent the next 30 years living his best life, enjoying the wealth and success he had worked so hard for earlier in life. It wouldn't be until the 2061 Salazar Games that Billothy would make his grand return to the public stage.
Contestants are now lining up for the 2063 Mattsville Marathon. Contestant representing Billothy Westerk, who is making his first run for the position of Salazar.
Billothy Westerk returned to the public eye in a big way. While he failed to claim the Salazarship, Billothy was back, as was his newspaper company, now rebranded to the Tenntucker Times, once again committed to bringing his news to all of Tenntucky.
Billothy had re-entered a market that basically had no competition anymore, and anyone not getting news from Tenntucker Times was going to Twittucker, the social media platform that Billothy owned. He had full control over public information in Tenntucky.
But it wasn't just information control or market dominance that Billothy was after. He wanted to be Salazar. Billothy Westerk began writing highly critical articles and twits on the reigning Salazars, as well as the Tenntucky government as a whole. Ahead of the 2065 Salazar Games, Billothy Westerk formed the Tenntuck Party, an attempt to rally support for his Salazarship.
We're gonna have more money, we're gonna have more freedom, and we're gonna have more winning.
The stage was set. Billothy was ready, and now all he needed to do was win the Salazar Games.
He's charging through the course! Stupid Brothers is all alone! This could be it! Will he finish it out? He will! He's done it! Billothy Westerk will be the new Salazar of Tenntucky!
From his humble beginnings, Billothy had worked and fought his way to the top, and was now the most powerful man in Tenntucky, and he wasted no time getting to work. Alongside a carefully selected Council of Suck, Billothy led the most productive Salazarship in Tenntucky history, rebuilding Tenntucky into the nation we know today. The Boobies Act funded and reformed Tenntucky's armed forces into a proper fighting force. The Rump Act rebuilt the still-destroyed national capital of Mattsville into a bustling urban center. His council also established the national currency, replacing the outdated United States dollar with the Tenntucky frankler. Despite the success of the Westerk administration, a major challenge still held back the success of Tenntucky as a whole. Following Billothy's victory in the 2065 Salazar Games, the Libertucker Party, led by Vixenus Rax, entered open revolt, accusing Billothy Westerk of cheating during the games. Fighting broke out in the state now known as Quasadilla. With a newly formed and untrained military, Billothy had to personally oversee the response to the Atlanta Revolution. While Billothy succeeded in keeping the revolution contained to Georgia and Florida, the military was not in a position to defeat the rebels outright. Unfortunately for Billothy, The Atlanta Revolution overshadowed much of his incredible Salazarship. This would not be the end of Billothy Westerk's political career, however. Despite losing the 2067 Salazar Games to his Speaker of the Suck Linus Tips III, Billothy was appointed to the Council of Suck for the next Salazarship. Billothy was still committed to bringing peace and prosperity to Tenntucky. He would find that the Tips administration did not align with his values, however. On May 4th, 2068, against the wishes of Salazar Tips, Billothy boarded a private jet headed for Atlanta to demand peace and an end to the fighting. Upon landing, he was immediately captured and held as a prisoner in Atlanta, Georgia. He was held in captivity and put under frequent audiovisual torture by the rebels. It wasn't until July of 2071 that Billothy managed to escape, after setting off a nail bomb in his holding cell. He made his way back to friendly territory on foot, before being brought to Mattsville by military personnel in time for the 2071 Salazar Games. He failed to secure the Salazarship once again, but was appointed as Speaker of the Suck. Billothy seized the opportunity to continue his work and better Tenntucky amidst the chaos of war. The Cum and Cream Acts bolstered the military and granted emergency powers to the Speaker, allowing Billothy to personally oversee a new offensive along the largely quiet Georgia front, as well as ensuring the safety of Tenntucky from internal enemies. For Billothy, however, the victory was short-lived.
The burned-out car of Council Speaker Billothy Westerk was found by police.
Investigators still have no leads on the Westerk assassination attempt that killed 3 Truth enforcers.
The Tenntucky Times released a statement this morning claiming that Billothy Westerk is unharmed.
While Billothy had survived, seemingly unharmed to the public, the attack had a significant impact on him. While he was represented at the 2073 Salazar Games, his public appearances ceased. As did his political career, as Salazar Cheddar Cheesley looked to other nominees for council positions. It was at this time that Billothy Westerk once again took a step back from running Tenntucky Times and the Tenntucky Conservative Party, with responsibilities being passed to party chairman Spencer Crumbs. Crumbs, seeing the failures of the previous Salazarships to quell the Atlanta Revolution and wishing to carry on Billothy's work, escalated the deployment of truth enforcers across Tenntucky. All the while, Billothy was largely out of the public eye. On September 20th, 2077, the Tenntucky Army had pushed the Tenntucky Conservative Truth Enforcers to the city of New Orleans, and were closing in. As party members engaged with the army in the streets, everyone was surprised as Billothy personally ended the Tenntucky Times' 3-year-long media blackout, making his final public appearance.
My fellow Tenntuckers, it's been some time since I've had a chance to speak to you all. I'm broadcasting to you today to say I'm sorry. I've done some terrible things in my time. My actions and my words have led to the death of thousands, maybe millions. Innocents who have done nothing wrong, who've hurt nobody. The fighting needs to stop. The party, those under me, those that have followed my words in the past, we need to end this fighting. The war's over. Our war is over. I don't expect that I'll see the sunrise. I've shown no mercy and I expect none in return. I don't look for salvation. My sins on this country have been far too great for such a thing. I just hope to make this country better one last time. Good night, Tenntucky, and goodbye. This is Billothy Earl Westerk for Tenntucky Times, signing off for the last time.
Following this broadcast, a tank shell detonated inside Billothy's office. Billothy Earl Westerk passed away at the age of 82. Westerk Holdings and most of its subsidiaries were nationalized under Kentucky Co., and continue to operate to this day in limited capacities. The Tenntucky Times was shuttered given its connections to the Tenntucky Conservative Party. Billothy's estate and wealth had already been seized by the government in previous legislation, leaving nothing to his next of kin, Much of his legislation and directives were repealed or overwritten, with the Cum Act in particular being repealed by 2 bills and a Salazarial directive, making it the most dead bill in Tenntucky history. Despite all this, Billothy's legacy carries on. Mattsville as it stands today, our safe, fortified borders, our robust, modern military, and a revitalized pride in Tenntucky and its values would not exist without the hard work, dedication, and sacrifice of Billothy Earl Westerk, the man responsible for defining freedom.
So, that's it, sir. We can have it ready for premiere by the end of the week.
Geeking, for real, for real. You should take a fucking good.
Hey, I wanted to ask you something. Didn't you hate this guy? Why would you want a documentary made about him?
Goop embodiment, though those of US Bro on lore accurate, maybe that's cool, Temps and PS2.
What?